What's up, guys? So this is another episode of Facebook with Ken, episode number 2. And today we're going to talk about impeachment, specifically Trump's impeachment and whether or not it was warranted. What are the merits behind this actual action to a guy who's leaving office in 2 days, less than 2 days. So I got into it with somebody on Facebook, and they had this to say about it.
The goal of the impeachment is to make sure that disgusting, divisive, racist, hateful, insurgent, encouraging little prick of a president is never able to gain that kind of power by running for a high political position again.
All right, so now you know where she stands. Let's get into the actual articles of impeachment. What do they actually say? What do they mean? And are there grounds to impeach? Because if you're being accused of a crime, there needs to be merit behind the accusation. So here we go. Let's look at the articles of impeachment.
In the months preceding the joint session, President Trump repeatedly issued false statements asserting that the presidential election results were the product of widespread fraud and should not be accepted by the American people or certified by state or federal officials. He also willfully made statements that, in context, encouraged and foreseeably resulted in lawless action at the Capitol, such as, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have any country anymore. Thus, he incited people. In all this, President Trump gravely endangered the security of the United States and its institutions of government.
Okay, a lot there. So let's break this down. First off, they're saying that Trump, his claims that it was a fraud election are the reason why they want to impeach him. That he was undermining the integrity of the election. That is very interesting. If you go back to 2016, specifically Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party, here's what they had to say.
We're going to begin this hour with Hillary Clinton, who now says Russian President Vladimir Putin essentially had a score to settle in relation to the suspected hacking of the election.
This is something every American should be worried about, illegitimate election. Vladimir Putin himself directed the covert cyber attacks against our electoral system, against our democracy, illegitimate election.
The Clinton campaign is blaming the theft on Russia. More about that tonight.
Illegitimate election.
For a second day, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, Robbie Mook, accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of meddling in the U.S. election.
Illegitimate election.
He, very early on, allied himself with Putin's policies. The Kremlin, meaning Putin and the Russian government, are directing the attacks, the hacking on American accounts to influence our election.
Illegitimate election.
Okay. You know that saying, words, no, what is it? A picture is worth 1,000 words? Well, that was a damn novel. If you want to say that Hillary had the right to say, hey, Russia interference in 2016, Trump has every right to say there were irregularities and they need to be looked at. Because let's be honest, every case that came up this year regarding these affidavits and irregularities, dismissed on procedural grounds. We didn't see an actual hearing based on the merits of the evidence. But hey, we can spend $30 million, 3 years on a witch hunt because Trump, you know the guy in Home Alone 2, Trump, the guy with all the buildings in New York, that guy, he's a Russian asset out to
Undermine America's institutions.
All right, so the second part of the impeachment states that Trump incited masses to attack the Capitol. To prove that case, you would have to do this thing called the Brandenburg test. And if the speech does not qualify those two conditions in the test, you don't have a case. So, back in 1969, the KKK held a rally and said the phrase,
It's possible that there might have to be some revengeance taken,
referring to attacking blacks and Jews. This kind of speech was ruled punishable in a case known as Brandenburg versus Ohio. What is the Brandenburg test, and why is it important for Trump's case? Well, this test is used to determine if speech is lawful or not. So there's two conditions. If you pass both conditions of this test, that speech is not protected by the First Amendment and can be punishable in the court of law. All right, so what are these conditions you're thinking, right? Condition number 1 says, the speech must be directed toward inciting or producing imminent lawless action. And condition number 2 says, the speech must be likely to incite or produce such actions. Okay, so in layman's terms, this means basically if I were to say the phrase,
"Let's take the effing streets later,"
that would not be punishable by law or in the court of law, because that is merely advocating for lawlessness, but it's not directed toward any group or for a group. Basically, you can say anything you want as long as it's not received by anybody or toward anybody, and as long as there's no lawlessness that follows afterwards. That would be the case they would be making in the Senate to impeach Trump. That the rhetoric he said the day of the 6th led to the storming of the Capitol. If you cannot connect his words to inciting people to storm the Capitol, the impeachment has no grounds. There's no merits to it. Okay, so after saying all that, after having said my piece, now I want to say my opinion on the matter. I think this witch hunt needs to stop. I think the impeachment's a sham. It's a waste of time, waste of money, especially in a pandemic where people need assistance, where a guy's leaving office within a few days. It's merely a hate campaign. If you look at the timestamps of all the events on that day, the attack happened while Trump was already giving a speech.
How does the president incite an attack that was pre-planned and already underway before his speech concluded?
That march was pre-planned, as I'm going to show you. Trump was not the one creating the chaos. He was merely in the chaos.
The FBI says some people showed an intent to attack the Capitol before the president's remarks.
We developed some intelligence that a number of individuals were planning to travel to the D.C. area with intentions to cause violence.
So I think the saddest part of this story is that you have partisanship determining legality and what's right and wrong. If I were to say stealing candy from a baby is wrong, me being a Republican, every Democrat would vote that it's okay. There's no longer right and wrong. It's whether you're Democrat or Republican. That's stupid.
Russia, Vladimir Putin, cyber attackers, hack in. Russia, China, Iran, hack into Americans.
Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia.